guys, welcome back to SME Clinic, Pandemic Proofing Your Business. It's a fantastic another week. Come on, I know you feel it's fantastic another week. We had the announcement from the president last night, and it's so fortuitous that we scheduled a very interesting interview to comment on that today. And if I can say hot off the press, I definitely feel that. So it's a great pleasure for us to welcome Mthozulu, Advocate Mthozulu, who is the president of SACCI and also has been kept very busy, as well as teaching his daughters at home, with the COVID-19 response team with Business South Africa. And it's such a pleasure to have someone that wears these multiple hats, represents the voice of small business in South Africa, really reporting up in the committee to what needs to be done. So welcome, Advocate Mtho.
Yes, thank you very much. How are you doing? Thank you for having me, and thank you for the viewers.
Fantastic. Well, I think our viewers are going to get a lot of value out of today, and as I said, possibly hot off the press commentary on what was discussed yesterday. So, Mtho, I'm going to go for Mtho, not Advocate. Are you comfortable with that? Fantastic. There was a lot announced last night. I know a lot of the mechanisms will be unpacked tomorrow, but maybe let's use that as a launch pad for our conversation this morning. What do you think were the key pertinent things that came out that small business can look at and look forward to in terms of this economic response from the presidency?
Yes, thank you very much again for having us. I think what we take as a pleasure in from the announcement yesterday, that we are now starting to hear a bit more practical and more economic related interventions on a broader scale. I know a few have been announced in the first round of interventions, but because the challenges are so huge, you would expect that the support should be greater. And yesterday, the president also came with the second phase of what's an unprecedented stimulus package. The details, you are correct, are yet to be unveiled, but we need to appreciate the principle that the president understands that we need to make sure that we balance the health response as well as the protection of the economy. So at least, we're starting to make the right sounds, and we continuously will support the president in creating the modalities and making sure that the stimulus package really does go to the intended audience and also makes a difference where it's most needed.
Absolutely. I think one of the key things that was almost an easy stimulus response to understand was UIF's response. TERS, a lot of companies went straight to that. I think what we are picking up a lot of, and I'm not sure in terms of your role as president at SACCI, is concern over access to the funding and the elements around funding. What are you seeing for your members and the way that the organs of state and banks are managing to distribute on all these different funds, be it the government funding and also like the Oppenheimer Fund?
Yes, I think we need to appreciate that we need to continuously be trying to move at greater speeds to make sure that as many SMEs are accommodated. And we need to make sure that all these relief measures are actually able to cater for the people who actually need them. Because, when you talk about SMEs and the economy in general, we're talking about a lot of different cases. So you'll be dealing with micro and informal entrepreneurs all the way to what we call formal or established SMEs. And, we just need to make sure that the reliefs are able to cater for all those different groups, as it's necessary. So what we have found recently, obviously, is that some of the benefits that the UIF will obviously be of great value to the more established SMEs. The relief measures that the Department of Small Business have announced is also to an extent, a bit more formalized SMEs who are able to fulfill the requirements. And that also goes to a number of other DFIs, such as NEF and IDC. We are obviously also encouraged by the fact that the department has further rolled out the township and spaza relief scheme. And that just really demonstrates that we are able, we need to cover and have relief measures that are fit for purpose, that are able to cover different SMEs at different stages, so that we do not only cater for one segment of the SME community, but try and cover as broadly as possible.
What I'd like to ask is, as you know, Smart Procurement has been supporting the SME agenda and access to market to procurement for quite a few years now. And we've always looked at the three areas of support. So we've just discussed access to finance, very important, access to business support, and then market access. If you look at those three elements, we can definitely see the funding models coming out very quickly. But how would you say some of these initiatives and what's being brought to business is looking at, well, I'm trying to access funding, but maybe I'm not tax compliant, or I still have issues in my small business, but I desperately need to access that money. How is the proposed systems and relief looking at that? And I'd also like to touch on market access, but let's first look at kind of that business support angle.
Yes, no, you're correct. And I think what this pandemic has shown us as South Africans is that there is still a lot of gaps and challenges being faced by SMEs. And it's well and good to have ready-made financial support for those who are compliant. But there's a huge number of SMEs in the pipeline who are still trying to get themselves established. And we really need to make sure that we are able to link these financial reliefs to a number of support, post disbursement and pre-disbursement, so that even before the disbursement, those who need support to be compliant, we need to have proper support in place. And then post the disbursement, we need to make sure that SMEs are supported for them to be able to really apply this financial relief in a way that will stabilize and grow their businesses. And also make sure that the entire schemes are sustainable, because we also don't want a situation where the relief measures go to waste because there's no sufficient support post disbursement. So this crisis has demonstrated that we need to support businesses not only financially, but there's also a great need for non-financial support. And that is something that definitely still needs to be improved. I don't think we have got it right as a country as well.
Oh, you answered my question then. I was going to ask if there was some sort of broad program. You've got organizations like SEDA that obviously try and achieve that business support, but they're definitely not going to have enough capacity to address all of SMEs in South Africa. So has there been identification of maybe opening it up to more incubators and businesses to jump in to partner with the funding?
Yes, the most critical word in this time of our lives is collaboration. And I believe that SEDA obviously is the anchor of enterprise development and non-financial support from a government point of view amongst SMEs. But there's a number of other DFI agencies at national and provincial, and in some instances even municipal level, who are meant to support SMEs, both with support but as well as financial relief and access to markets, by the way. So those three are very important for all the agencies of government. And what we also need to start doing is need to make sure that we set up proper frameworks on how private institutions such as incubators and a number of other SME agencies out there, banks, and the likes, chambers of commerce, organized business, on how do we then link up the current stimulus packages, the current economic recovery plan to access to markets, access to support for businesses, and ongoing financial and economic support.
So I don't know if you're able to answer this question. So will there be part of this funding allocated to this small business support? So for instance, if I am a small business and I want to access funding, but I need to do tax compliance, that's probably an easy example, and I need the 4,000 Rand, or I need to go and get my SABS approval, but it costs 15,000 Rand. Is there this funding that's going to go towards me being compliant so that I can then access the actual money to run my business?
Yes, I think it definitely has to be like that, because the requirements should not serve as barriers to entry. Remember, what we need to do in this country, we need to have as many as people who are committed to the cause to be economically active. And a lot of other people are not compliant, not because they are trying to evade the law. They're actually because of different circumstances that they find themselves in as businesses. Now, I'm talking about very small entrepreneurs.
Correct.
And so these agencies also need to be demystified. So when you talk about SARS, you know, some of the relief measures are not necessarily saying that by mere nature, by the mere virtue of registering, you have to pay tax. It just simply means that you need to now start getting into the system, because as much as we must provide relief and support to SMEs, it's also an opportunity for us to start formalizing them and making sure that they are stable and sustainable in their own right. So what you need to do, if you want to go back to your example on SARS, the issue is that people must start getting into the culture of registering, being compliant, and managing their finances in a tax compliant manner. With regards to other industry requirements, we will also expect, especially those from public sector, to also rearrange their business models in a way that promotes economic inclusivity. Because what's the point of having a Bureau of Standards that is rigid and is not willing to look at innovation and certification of new standards and innovation, and in the process, it precludes many people from coming into the economy. So when we talk about a new normal after COVID-19, we are saying all the organizations that are relevant in the value chain of this economy need to imagine a new normal in a way that promotes economic growth, economic inclusivity, and making sure that the economy continues to grow. Because as it is, we are in a situation where the economy is not growing sufficiently, not enough people are active in it. We have a number of challenges at macroeconomic level. So it's an opportunity for us to really restart and redefine this economy in a way that is sound at macroeconomic level, but also at micro level. More and more South Africans feel that they are part of it and it's working for them.
So I don't know if this is more of a difficult question to answer, but if I was an SME sitting with my small business, my doors are closed at the moment, and I know there's all these systems. Which organization would I go to first? Do I go to my traditional bank? Do I go to a CEDA, a CIFA? Where would you say is a starting point? Because on one hand, it's great, there's all these options, but sometimes as a small business, I just don't know where my first step should be. What do you suggest?
What we will encourage, obviously, is that people should use, their access to the internet, for those who can, to access the information, because most of it is already available online. And what we have done as Business for South Africa is that we've created a WhatsApp bot that has collated all the information and all the relief measures, both from government and the private sector, onto one platform. So you register to that number, that WhatsApp bot, and then you choose the number of the type of relief that you need, and we just simply forward you all the necessary information. And all that information, and that information is updated on a daily basis. So that is a starting point to get all the information at the palm of your hand. But in terms of the support that you need, then from there you'll be able to pick up the relief that you need based on the circumstances of your business.
Be guided. That's fantastic. Ladies and gents, we've actually shared that WhatsApp group on our social media. We will put it below as well for you to easily access it. We think it's a wonderful initiative by BSA. So last area that I'd like to ask about, market access. So if we were discussing before we started this interview, ladies and gents, and SMEs, that a smart procurement, this is really the role that we've played over the years in a physical event. We are now pushing to do that online and growing hopefully more collaboration, that we can do it with greater SMEs and economic support on that. How do you see as a COVID response as SACCI, what are you saying to small business if they literally are stuck behind, 4 walls and a computer? Where are they going to get that market access?
Yeah, well, market access obviously will require that we are able to move. And we would have encouraged SMEs, obviously, at the time when their movements were limited, to start really revisiting their business plans and looking at where they believe their market is. Because, you know, sometimes when you are also running around in the normal course of life, you don't get a chance to really reflect on whether is your business still relevant in the environment that we operate in. So, you know, this lockdown should have been served as an opportunity for the refining of a number of business plans and how we then execute them beyond the lockdown. We are anticipating that tomorrow the president obviously will lift some restrictions on certain sectors, obviously on a risk-adjusted manner, so that we don't also expose South Africans to this virus. You know, it's going to be with us for some time, so we need to find a way of conducting ourselves in a way that, you know, we almost live with the virus without it spreading any further than it already is. So SMEs will then definitely have to, beyond the announcements from the president, then to start locating themselves in sectors that will be open and making sure that they are agile enough to adapt to the new normal, that you know, certain sectors will be reopened. So if some sectors will end up having to be closed for longer than others, it means that business plans will have to be adjusted accordingly. But also, our sentiment generally within the economy is to say we need to make sure that the way we conduct business must be structurally adjusted to include as many people as possible. You know, a number of other things are going to take time to adjust. So it means that in cases where there's been concentration of market, we need to be able to open it up to new players, and we need to continuously have the necessary support available for new players, but also encourage innovation and also promote you know, reindustrialization locally, local manufacturing, and creating new patterns of economic activity in the country, so that we don't go back to the old way of doing things. Because if you're going to have a slow start to the economy, it means we must start creating new economic patterns. So it's really an opportunity for us to reflect on how actually our businesses would have to be smarter and better prepared for the new normal.
Very well said. So we actually interviewed ProudESA around their partnerships and initiatives with the retail sector. Obviously, we've been pushing the local content agenda for procurement for many years now. And as you said, innovation, industrialization, I think what this has shown is that we can do it, and hopefully reduce some of the barriers to it, because there was no choice. And you look at local manufacturing of masks, for instance, or whatever the case may be, there's certain industries that have gotten a bit of a kickstart in this time. So we hope that our buying audience and procurement will really push that agenda further.
Yeah.
Mto, again, thank you so much. I think this has been very enlightening, very practical on the WhatsApp group that we will share with our audience. Also, thank you for all your hard work with the committee. I think just seeing the response from the presidency, and we know that he's got a huge workforce behind him, like yourself and team, and we do appreciate as you said earlier, it's for the common good and the time you're taking from your family to make it happen. And we're also looking forward to just hopefully pushing the market access agenda online and working more closely with the various organizations like BSA and SACCI. Any parting comments you'd like to give to our audience?
Yeah, no, I think what I would say is that we encourage all entrepreneurs, you know, to remain committed to their businesses. Obviously, with the necessary adjustments, we need more and more entrepreneurs in this economy for it to grow, for it to reinvent itself, for it to create new wealth and new parts of economic prosperity. So it might be a difficult time that we are in now, but entrepreneurs are some of the heroes that this country needs, that this economy needs. And we also, obviously, as part of organized business, are continuously encouraging big and small enterprises to work closely and in collaboration so that this economy can be felt valuable by all South Africans. And in the process, encourage new innovation, new participation, the growth of our advantageous sectors, so that we make sure that we build an economy that is resilient, that is internationally competitive, and obviously environmentally sustainable.
Fantastic, with reduced barriers.
Yeah.
So,
With reduced barriers.
with reduced
Barriers, obviously, barriers must be reduced, and making sure that access and connectivity within the economy is improved.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I hope this is not our last conversation. We hope to touch base again with SACCI and BSA, possibly after lockdown, see what, because things are changing every day, so possibly after the more information that's shared over the next few weeks. And we're very happy to just ensure that we are a repository of true information, because there's also a lot of false information going around. So please make sure you are following things like the BSA WhatsApp group and SME Clinic channel, and stay safe, and stay safe alone at home with your family or online. Thanks very much. Thanks, Mto.
Thank you. Keep well. Thank you. Bye.